Okay, so today is a special day. It is Shri Krishna Saradiya Rasa Yatra. And I thought before we start with the readings from Bhagavatam, that we could read this message that I found on Facebook. So I will start with the reading. Is that all right with everybody?
Jai.
Okay.
Jai.
Happy Shri Krishna Saradiya Rasa Yatra. The first full moon of the autumn season marks the celebration of Krishna's dancing with the gopis. When Krishna, the supreme enjoyer, desired to enjoy the company of the gopis on that full moon night of the Sarat season, exactly at that very moment, the moon, the Lord of the stars, appeared in the sky, displaying its most beautiful features. The full moon night of the Sarat season is the most beautiful night in the year. The appearance of the moon increased Krishna's desire to dance with the gopis. The forests were filled with fragrant flowers. The atmosphere was cooling and festive. When Lord Krishna began to blow his flute, the gopis all over Vrindavan became enchanted. Their attraction to the vibration of the flute increased 1,000 times due to the rising full moon, the red horizon, the calm and cool atmosphere, and the blossoming flowers. All these gopis were by nature very much attracted to Krishna's beauty, and when they heard the vibration of his flute, they became apparently lustful to satisfy the senses of Krishna. The festive rasa dance commenced with the gopis arrayed in a circle. Lord Krishna expanded himself and entered between each pair of gopis, and as that master of mystic power placed his arms around their necks, each girl thought he was standing next to her alone. The demigods and their wives were overwhelmed with eagerness to witness the rasa dance, and they soon crowded the sky with their hundreds of celestial airplanes. Okay. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, fourth chapter, text number 25.
Jai.
Ramachandra, would you like to read?
You guys go ahead, read. I'm just hearing for today.
NARA NARAYAN, would you like to read?
I think you should read, if you don't mind.
All right.
You did such a beautiful job reading this gopi pastime. I don't know what I could do to add to that.
Okay. Translation. Out of compassion, the great sage thought it wise that this would enable men to achieve the ultimate goal of life. Thus, he compiled the great historical narration called the Mahabharata for women, laborers, and friends of the twice-born. Purport. The friends of the twice-born families are those who are born in the families of Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, or the spiritually cultured families, but who themselves are not equal to their forefathers. Such descendants are not recognized as such for want of purificatory achievements. The purificatory activities begin even before the birth of a child. And the seed-giving reformatory process is called Garbhadan Samskar. One who has not undergone such Garbhadan Samskar or spiritual family planning is not accepted as being of an actual twice-born family. The Garbhadan Samskar is followed by other purificatory processes, out of which the sacred thread ceremony is one. This is performed at the time of spiritual initiation. After this particular samskar, one is rightly called twice born. One birth is calculated during the seed-giving samskar, and the second birth is calculated at the time of spiritual initiation. One who has been able to undergo such important samskaras can be called a bona fide twice born. If the father and the mother do not undertake the process of spiritual family planning and simply beget children out of passion only, their children are called Dvija Bandhus. These Dvija Bandhus are certainly not as intelligent as the children of the regular twice-born families. The Dvija Bandhus are not classified with the Shudras and the women class, who are by nature less intelligent. The Shudras and the woman class do not have to undergo any samskara save and accept the ceremony of marriage. The less intelligent classes of men, namely women, Shudras, and unqualified sons of the higher castes, are devoid of necessary qualifications to understand the purpose of the transcendental Vedas. For them, the Mahabharata was prepared. The purpose of the Mahabharata is to administer the purpose of the Vedas, and therefore within this Mahabharata, the summary Veda of Bhagavad Gita is placed. The less intelligent are more interested in stories than in philosophy, and therefore the philosophy of the Vedas in the form of the Bhagavad Gita is spoken by the Lord Sri Krishna. Vyasadeva and Lord Krishna are both on the transcendental plane, and therefore they collaborated in doing good to the fallen souls of this age. The Bhagavad Gita is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. It is the first book of spiritual values, as the Upanishads are. The Vedanta philosophy is the subject matter for study by the spiritual graduates. Only the postgraduate spiritual student can enter into the spiritual or devotional service of the Lord. It is a great science, and the great professor is the Lord himself in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord.
Right.
So please discuss, what did you get out of this?
Well, he's going to make a presentation based upon his so many years of profound knowledge and study. So I think we should simply offer our obeisances to Ishan Prabhu and listen carefully to what he has to say, because it will be, we cannot assume that it will be not as advanced as what we're discussing. We can assume that it will be equal or more advanced than what we're discussing. So anyhow, let's go for it. Ishan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Obeisances. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you. I couldn't hear you the other day, but I can hear you now. So I have to 10,000 apologies to you for saying, what are you saying? Because I couldn't hear you, but now I can hear you.
Rupa Manjari Prabhu, can you scroll down to the last sentence in this purport? All right. It is a great science. Obeisances to Srila Prabhupada, of course. It's a great science, and the great professor is the Lord himself, in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. In Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, there's a monologue. Krishna is speaking. And he says that actually no one can distribute the, just like we were reading about the rasa dance, no one can distribute the rasas of Vrindavan. or the rasas of Krishna Loka, except the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. There are so many, the avatars are unlimited. They come like the waves of the river. There are no counting. But out of all of them, none of them have the ability to distribute to the conditioned souls the rasas of Krishna Loka. And in that monologue, Krishna says that he's simply a little bit, he's not excited, he's not attracted by awe and veneration. And so he says, I'm going to go to the Earth planet and I'm going to distribute these feelings of love for God myself, because no one else can do this. But he has a very special way in which he's going to distribute these feelings of love of God. He says, I'm going to distribute love of God by practicing it myself. And in the descriptions again and again and again in Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, it's described how Lord Chaitanya distributed. Of course, he did have some philosophical discussions with Ramananda Roy or Prakashananda Saraswati, etc. But the way in which that he distributed love of Krishna was by being engaged in love of Krishna himself in kirtan. And so it's described in the Chaitanya that the people who saw him, they were all sprinkled, they were all splashed by this great inundation of love of God that was flowing spontaneously from Lord Chaitanya. And it's explained by Krishnadas Kaviraj that those who caught it, they began to cultivate it, those very feelings within their own heart. And in that way, they spread it to others. And this is the meaning of our disciplic succession in the Brahma Gaudiya Sampradaya. So, in other words, the process of distributing love of God is very unique. It's a question of, it can't be taught, but it must be caught. I'm quoting somebody. So this is the way in which Lord Chaitanya, and Srila Prabhupada raises a point in one of the purports. He says, well, very nice. Those who were in the presence of Lord Chaitanya, they could become, as Srila Prabhupada uses this word in Srimad Bhagavatam in the next chapter, 1.5.25, he says, pure devotional service is infectious in the good sense, just like an infectious disease. And he explains in that purport that infection of the qualities of the pure devotee means to imbibe the taste of devotional service in the association. So Srila Prabhupada makes the point in Chaitanya Charitamrita that one may say, oh, it's very good that the people who were in association with Lord Chaitanya, they could imbibe the taste of that love of God and cultivate it through their own chanting. But what about us? That was 500 years ago. So Srila Prabhupada says that this is our disciplic succession, one can hear the chanting of Lord Chaitanya today through the disciplic succession. So this is the last line in the purport we're reading. It's a great science. And the great professor is the Lord himself in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and persons who are empowered by him. Persons who are empowered by him. That means Srila Prabhupada. Persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Therefore, Srila, and we were just listening, hearing. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says in his explanation of the chanting of Hare Krishna on that record that we're listening, that as far as possible, the chanting should be heard from the lips of a pure devotee of the Lord. And Srila Prabhupada says the pure devotee is very reluctant to make some kind of public display of his feelings, but he's always absorbed in complete ecstatic love of God. And that one who is sincere can pick that up. So it's explained in the Nectar of Devotion, chapter 12, that association is like a crystal stone or like a mirror. It reflects whatever's placed before it. And Srila Prabhupada says, in our association with a pure devotee, like Srila Prabhupada, of course, we can, in our hearts, we can reflect, we can receive. And if we receive, that same spirit of devotion can be reflected from within our hearts and come out of our hearts as well. He says the only prerequisite, or the only thing, is that the heart, or the mirror of the mind, the heart, has to be completely pure and clean. So when we read this last line, therefore it's so important, again, that the spiritual teacher or spiritual master, he must be empowered by Lord Chaitanya, and only such a person can initiate others into the transcendental loving service of the Lord. Of course, we can speak a long time, but would like to give others an opportunity.
Nara Narayan, what would you say?
I would ask him to continue some more. It's fascinating. What would you say? If you have something to say, please say it. Just because I'm, as it were, recusing myself so that I could hear more doesn't mean everyone else should.
It's a very nice reading, Prabhu. And I think I missed the last one, but it's actually, is this going along with the Damodar month, the Kartik month? Are we doing this for, seems like it, forgive me if I'm not understanding.
No, we did a reading on Sri Krishna Saradiya Rasa before this. This is just class on Srimad Bhagavatam.
Oh, it's a class. Oh, at this time, okay.
But you feel free to share
Your views and your comments.
Are you new to this group, Manu Prabhu?
Yeah, I'm pretty much new. I just came here and there, but like still though, I didn't know you were having classes. Is it gonna be classes the whole week?
No, just we have Istagosti on Thursday, and we're gonna having a class on Sundays.
Oh no, so no Instagosti on Friday?
No, just Thursday and Sunday.
Thursday and Sunday, and at what time would that be? The same time as right now?
Yeah, starts 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
I see.
Well,
Thank
well,
you.
Thursday is supposed to be an Istagosti, because an Istagosti is what that whole League for 10K is meant to be. If it turns into something else, we should correct it.
That's correct. Nara
We
Narayan.
want to stay on the track of inquiry and exposition.
That's a very interesting commentary by Srila Prabhupada, where he really ends it with that. What was the ending? And Rupa, are you sharing it on the screen? Okay.
Yeah.
What do you see here? What does it say? Prabhupada says, and persons who are empowered by him can initiate others in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So there's a similar statement in the Nectar of Instruction, where Srila Prabhupada says that the Kanishta and Madhyamadhikaris can initiate, but the disciples must be on the same level. And then he says they cannot advance further than their guru. And then Prabhupada at the end says, therefore, initiation must be accepted from an Uttama Adhikari. So that kind of rang in with this verse and the last sentence. And persons who are empowered by him can initiate others into the transcendental loving service of the Lord. So that's what I wanted to say.
Joy.
So the question should be raised. Why is it that one who is not on the level of love of God cannot give his disciple love of God? Why is that? They say chant 16 rounds, follow the 4 regulative principles, rise early, etc., etc. So the idea is that just as Lord Chaitanya was teaching by sharing his heart with those who learned from him, Srila Prabhupada, the pure devotee, only can share. In other words, what one doesn't have himself, he cannot give to another person. In other words, the process of learning or cultivating Krishna consciousness is not simply like a user's manual, but it's a personal relationship with a pure devotee. Therefore, in the 10th canto, Srila Prabhupada in one purport says that initiation, which is mentioned in the last line of what we're reading tonight, initiation or diksha means the beginning of a heart-to-heart relationship with the spiritual master. And in that way, love of God is transferred from his heart to our heart. This engagement in a personal relationship with Srila Prabhupada, not everyone understands in that way. They're thinking he lives forever by his divine instruction, and the follower lives with him. So they're thinking user's manual, or they're thinking I'm following this checklist. I'm doing, and I'm avoiding. But if we look in a broader sense, how broad is that divine instruction? It also includes this understanding. This is also part of that divine instruction. And one can enter into this relationship, or there's no question of new devotee, old devotee. There's no senior devotee. A person can do this in their first week. Srila Prabhupada says, it's simple for the simple. It's just a question of understanding and accepting. And one can be Krishna conscious in a second. So what does this mean? What what does it mean that it's simply a question of understanding and accepting? Well, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says in his commentary on Sri Brahma Samhita that faith, that all of our realization is a function, how much faith we have in our practice. So what is faith? Well, Srila Prabhupada says Krishna consciousness is only a matter of understanding and accepting. Well, what is acceptance? Faith is the measure of our acceptance. It's not conceptual acceptance. Everyone will raise their hand and say, yes, I accept this philosophy. But real acceptance is faith. And what is the measure of our faith? The measure of our faith, Srila Rupa Goswami says that if we want to make progress in Nectar of Instruction, the first quality is utsahan, enthusiasm. Because if one really has faith, so enthusiasm is the measure of our faith. Srila Prabhupada writes in another purport that in order to make advancement, one must be joyful. So if we really have faith, we'll be very enthusiastic and we'll be very joyful. So Srila Prabhupada says, and filled with gratitude. So Srila Prabhupada says, blind following is condemned. He also says, licking the bottle of honey on the outside of the bottle, licking the glass without tasting. He says that one will never taste it. And he says, and therefore, nobody should follow blindly, but one should acquire the taste. But where will we get that taste? Prabhupada says, where will you get this love of God? If you can purchase it, immediately purchase. Hear this in the earlier lectures. So, therefore, as soon as we engage in our sadhana, not because it's a duty that we have to perform, but if we have faith, then we engage with full enthusiasm, with great gratitude, and we engage joyfully. And then we begin to taste. Now, a person can think, I'm going just follow these instructions, but one can do this for many years or decades. I know many devotees, they say, I don't have much taste. So, and also, not only enthusiasm and joyful engagement, but always how? In the association of the pure devotee, under the guidance of the pure devotee. Again, where will we get this taste? He says, if you can purchase it, immediately purchase. But what he's saying, the only place to get the taste is in his association. So, this is something, but when does one have to wait a very long time? He said, no, you can do it in a second. It's just a question of understanding and accepting. And so it's simple for the simple. We have to be like a little bit childlike, although we have to be intelligent enough to understand this philosophy. We have to be innocent and childlike enough to embrace it fully. And if we can do that, then immediately the doors open for us. And then we're not licking the bottle on the outside, understanding the concepts or the philosophy, but we're beginning to taste the honey. So we have to do two things. Not only be very enthusiastic and very joyful, but in the association, opening our heart to, as Srila Prabhupada says, a heart-to-heart connection with the spiritual masters, the meaning of Diksha. If we approach him with great gratitude and with a joyful open heart, we'll begin to feel his presence in our heart. And when we feel his presence, as he says, pure devotion becomes infectious in the good sense. Just like an infectious disease, we can imbibe the taste of the devotion of the pure devotee, not only receive it, but cultivate it in his association. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says, Krishna consciousness is an apprenticeship program. And it's not a user's manual. He uses this word. He says it is an apprenticeship program. You know, if you're an apprentice to a bricklayer, he shows you put the cement like this on the brick, and you put the brick on, and you move it a little, making it very snug, and you catch the feeling from the master bricklayer. And then the student goes and he says, he feels the way in which the master has done this, and he does it also, and he looks to the master. He's rendering service. He's giving the master back what the master has given him. In the same way, when we begin to taste Srila Prabhupada's love and enthusiasm, boundless enthusiasm for devotional service, not only we receive, but we do it for his pleasure. Therefore, he says, and this is very few understand, 434 in Bhagavad Gita, that just find a spiritual master and surrender unto him, because he can impart this knowledge to you, because he has seen the truth. He has this feeling of devotion in his heart. So when Srila Prabhupada explains in the purport, inquiry, submission, and service. So what is that inquiry? He says, foolish inquiries, this is not wanted. So what is the real inquiry? The real inquiry is, how do I develop my love for God? What is this love of God? So submission is ardent receptivity to become infected with his feelings of devotion. And service is inquiry, submission, and service. Service is that I begin to engage in Krishna consciousness with that seed in my heart. I'm cultivating the infection that he has given me. And what? Alone? No. The apprentice is doing it for the pleasure, always in his association for his pleasure, giving back to him what he has given to us. Therefore, Srila Prabhupada says it's a reciprocation process. That's the last line in the purport, 434. Reciprocation process. Therefore, the reciprocation of inquiry and knowledge back and forth becomes perfect. This is a relationship, an intimate. Srila Prabhupada used this word, an intimate relationship between the student and the spirit. So we're in this apprenticeship program. Now, not everyone is going to take it like that, but this is the science of Krishna consciousness. This is the science of Krishna consciousness. This is how Lord Chaitanya, as we read tonight, has distributed love of God, And this is how it has come down through the whole disciplic succession. And so it is, it's a great opportunity. But if we go, how many are going to take this up in this way? If we look at Srila Prabhupada's preface in Bhagavad Gita, he knows he's distributing some millions of Bhagavad Gitas, but what is his anticipation? Who's going to take? Who's going to receive? He says if one person becomes a real devotee, he'll consider the whole effort a success, the whole business, the whole movement of Krishna. If one, these are Srila Prabhupada, that if one, we hope that people will benefit from this Bhagavad Gita, but if one person becomes a pure devotee. So, although it's freely given, Srila Prabhupada is available to all of us. Not that everyone is going to approach him on that level. Mostly understanding the philosophy. So I'm presenting a little like this, but I shouldn't speak too loud.
Well, Rupa Manjari, do you think we should have questions and answers now?
Sure.
Okay, well, I have a question, and that is by looking at the movement and being in it from about when you joined. When did you take initiation, ISHAN Prabhu?
What's
Your
that?
Your initiation, what year? Are we having a
The year 68.
Okay. What month, by the way?
Don't remember.
Okay. So the thing is that you and I started out at about the same time. I mean, hearing the Hare Krishna mantra on that record, which was the standard for every temple at that time, not that there were very many temples, mainly 2 or 3, and then 5, and then 10, then 15, 20, and then 30, until they started bringing in Bengali kirtans to try to overflood Prabhupada's kirtan. Did you see many people obtaining pure devotional service by chanting in the temples and hearing Prabhupada chanting?
Srila Prabhupada is very, very kind, as you know. We know. He's giving everyone a chance. However, everything I'm saying is coming from our books. I was once in a room with Srila Prabhupada in New York. It was an unusual circumstance. You might enjoy to hear it. All the presidents from all around the United States came because Srila Prabhupada was in New York. And you could not get into the temple room for Srimad Bhagavatam class. And there were students on the front stairs going all the way down to the street, the sidewalk. But I had some little association with Srila Prabhupada in England, maybe a year or two previously. And I knew that I'm not an important person. I'm not a temple president. And Srila Prabhupada's meeting with his leading men, his soldiers. So I was in an apartment some 2 blocks from the temple. And in my childish, if I can't see you, Srila Prabhupada, and within a few minutes, there was a knock on the door of my apartment. And he said, Srila Prabhupada wants to see you in his room. So I went to his room, and the
Can you speak sort of loudly because your recording it seems to be getting blurry.
He give me food to eat, peanut.
Ishan Prabhu, Ishan Prabhu, you're cutting up.
Yeah.
Maybe turn off your video.
Oh, okay. I'll turn off. Yeah. Is
By the way, we very much
better?
appreciated your dissertation.
But I want to say, is the sound better now?
No, it's not.
Is the sound better now? So
Now it's
maybe
better.
maybe I should not. The point I want to make is that Atreya Rishi was in the room, one of the GBC, whatever. And he
What
asked
year was
Srila
that?
Prabhupada,
Was that before 1970?
71, I don't remember. I don't have a good mind for numbers and things. I remember the event, but
Okay,
not
but
the time.
GBC was
So
created with the
Atreya
direction
Rishi-
of management
No,
in
but
1970.
that's not important. That's aside from what I want to discuss. Not to
Okay.
be impolite. I have an important point to make.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, they were talking, and Atreya Rishi raised it because in the class, the Srimad Bhagavatam class, they were talking about atonement, prayaschita. And Atreya Rishi asked Srila Prabhupada about this atonement, prayaschita, and Srila Prabhupada raised his voice and he said, "The atonement is to read my books." Why?
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada would make jokes that these boys are out on the street distributing books. And he said, and the person in the airport is going to ask you, "Do you read these books?" And they'll say, "No." Srila Prabhupada said, "Don't read them." He was being sarcastic, of course. The point is, everything I'm talking about is coming from the books. And you're asking me how many people are going to take this process of intimate association with the pure devotee within the heart so that one can understand his devotional feelings and make that the basis of their sadhana. You're asking me that question. I'm free. Therefore, they'll think that it's a mechanical process, that if I do the A, B, C, D, one day a bolt of lightning will enlighten me and I'll have love of God. They don't know that this is a process, an apprenticeship program in which one learns love in the association, heart to heart, Srila Prabhupada's words, with the spiritual master. So you're asking me how many will do that? That's how many will do that. I haven't met one who can even accept what I'm saying here tonight.
Who's speaking?
Ishan Prabhu was speaking.
Jai.
Jai.
So this is very serious to consider because I can supply you with dozens of quotes to back up what I'm saying. That this is the process. That otherwise, why does the people in ISHAN, there's chant your rounds, follow the four regulative principles, do this, do that. Why? What's the difference between us and them? What is the benefit of having a pure devotee as a spiritual master? Because it's only from a pure devotee that one can learn pure devotion.
Yes.
To
That's the
Part
entire
2.
core of what the League for 10K is constructed on, that there is only one being that can deliver everyone. And I would ask you, Ishan Prabhu, how about 5,000 years from now? Who can deliver the fallen souls in the way that you described?
The same person, Srila Prabhupada.
Yes.
Why not? He's a transcendental personality. And in the next chapter that we're reading in Srimad Bhagavatam, Srila Vyasadeva says to Narada Muni, your goodness is just like, you're like as good as the all-pervasive super soul. You can enter into the heart of everyone. The spiritual master, the bona fide, but what we were reading tonight, he's empowered. He's Shaktavesh avatar. He's the external manifestation of Krishna within our hearts. The spiritual master is the external manifestation of the Lord in the heart. It means that relating with Srila Prabhupada is as good as Paramatma realization. Is as good as having complete, having association with the Lord in the heart. We can't see the Lord in the heart, but we can. And because Srila Prabhupada said, I'm present in my picture. He's present in his Murti form. He's present, equally available to unlimited spiritual souls, all simultaneously. Is inconceivable, but he's an avatar of Krishna, Shakyavesh avatar.
Yes.
So anyone who accepts him today or 5,000 years from now, the result will be the same.
So the real question is how to engineer that to occur. I mean, we can look around us and see thousands and thousands of devotees scrambling all around, making up their own melodies. They don't want to listen to Prabhupada. They don't want to really read Prabhupada's unchanged books. And so that's a difficulty. And we're trying to overcome that. Our League for 10K is an attempt to overcome that difficulty.
I just said, you look at that. No, I'm just speaking the philosophy. I'm excited by these ideas because I'm trying to cultivate them in my own heart according to my little capacity. But like I say, I'll read you the last sentence of his preface in Bhagavad Gita. And what is Srila Prabhupada's expectation? You're saying how many are doing like that? And what is Srila Prabhupada saying? He says, we hope, therefore, that the people will derive the greatest benefit by studying Bhagavad Gita as it is, as we have presented it here. And if even one man becomes a pure devotee, we shall consider our attempt a success. In other words, he knows what he's dealing with. He knows who we are. He knew that those boys would try, those 11 fools would try to take his position on the Vyasa. He talks about these things within his books before they ever happened. He makes mention of how the downfall of the Gaudiya math. He says it should not happen again in this movement. He knew all of these things. He said there are envious people within this movement. He writes that in his book. So he did not, but he's giving everyone a chance. He's giving all of us a chance. But so
could we say that those who read his books should walk their step carefully because it may be mentioning them?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch it, but forgive me. I'm a little excited.
That you said that there are people, if you can catch it, if there are people mentioned in the Srimad Bhagavatam who are doing exactly what the ISKCON followers and ISKCON pseudo-gurus and pseudo-followers of pseudo-gurus are proposing and doing all over the place, and you say he predicted it, well, all I can say is, hopefully they will come to their attention that they're named in those books.
It's written by the different acharyas in our line that when the acharya leaves, all chaos. This is the material world. It's not, at first it was a shock to me, as it probably was to you and to so many of God brothers, that these people should do that. Those who were supposedly closest to Srila Prabhupada, supposedly closer, and they want to push him off the Vyasa-san and sit there themselves. And they are on their neophyte Kanista Adhikaris. They have no realization and they want even to be worshipped. So this is the kind of insanity, but this is the material world. So Srila Prabhupada is saying they don't expect to really make how many pure devotees? He said if he can make one, he'll consider the whole movement a success. So, but he's giving us all a chance. And those who do some service, it's cumulative from one birth to the next. And
yes,
then
that's a fact, ISHAN Prabhu. But as time goes on, we're going to require a standard which is equal to Prabhupada's standard for receiving the sound vibration, which he can give from a recording like the one we played tonight. And anyone who can come, there could be dozens and dozens of temples all over the place doing yeehaw, yeehaw kirtans. But the actual fact is that when Srila Prabhupada's kirtan resounds, the neophytes will hear it, and they will be hearing something extraordinary, because when Prabhupada chanted, he was chanting in direct relationship to Krishna. And if people come, they will hear that he wasn't just chanting because he was a little man and like chanting. They'll take his chanting and say, to whom is he chanting? Then they'll listen more carefully and say, oh my God, he's chanting to Govinda, the very person that we're trying to become returned to. We don't have that capacity, and our God brothers are preventing it. But at the same time, he is making it possible through that one record, and other recordings, but not by other devotees, not by other Kanista Adhikari devotees. They can't do it, but they wanted to go beyond it, go beyond Prabhupada. And did they succeed? Well, we can see what they did. They created a nightmare. Anyhow,
the point
do you catch my point, ISHAN Prabhu?
I think you're saying that things are not going very nicely. when Lord Chaitanya, Krishna himself was here, Lord Chaitanya was here, and within a couple of 100 years, by the time Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur became involved, there were 13 different deviant sects of Vaishnavism. After Krishna himself started this movement, there were 13 deviant sects of Vaishnavism practicing rasa dance and every other kind of offense. So much so, Bhakti Vinod Thakur writes that when he came in, no respectable person in India would have anything to do with Vaishnavism. Therefore, they began preaching to try and destroy all. In other words, this is the material.
Ramakrishna, Vivekananda, that sort of thing.
What you're describing is just the way it is. But it is Krishna's plan that every town and village there will be chanting of the holy name. And
Pure
how that
chanting.
will, we'll see. It may be, Srila Prabhupada says it's not expected that everyone will become a pure devotee, but if one person does, that'll be good. He'll say that's a success. This is what he seems to be expecting.
Well, it's not that one person will become a pure devotee, but if people listen to Prabhupada carefully, like on this record that we played tonight, and can hear Prabhupada connecting with Krishna in that record, many people can, if not become pure devotees, can follow in the footsteps so nicely in the footsteps of pure devotees, namely Srila Prabhupada, that their chanting will overwhelm the Maya that we're facing on all sides.
If they can do that, I won't stand in the way. I'll also try and join them.
I won't either.
So I'd
Well,
like to raise a question here. So Prabhupada had many statements like everyone should become a spiritual master, everyone should become a guru. So Ishan Prabhu, what does Srila Prabhupada actually mean by this statement? Like he made general statements.
Yeah, their statements on everything has to be taken in context. But he says, Krishna says, Manmana Bhava Mad Bhakto Madhyachi Mangnamasturu Mamai Vaishishvaivam Atmanam Matparayan. You become my devotee, you worship me, you bow down to me with your heart attached to me. So he says, Krishna says that, so you say that. So what is the difficulty? You become spiritual master. He said, go door to door. In that sense.
Well, in the sense that you can take who hears your chanting, you can take them back to Godhead directly yourself.
Srila Prabhupada said, you repeat Krishna's words and you are a spiritual master. But he also said that if you want to go back to Godhead, you should find a Mahabhagavata devotee and surrender to him.
Exactly. Because in that earlier sense, you are a spiritual master. Elizabeth is a spiritual master. Ramachandra is a spiritual master. We have so many spiritual masters, but we're not pure devotees ourselves. We're simply trying to quote. We're trying to quote this pure devotee in such a way that people will find it delicious and acceptable.
Well, you know what made it delicious and acceptable? Why, wherever Srila Prabhupada went, so many people who never even met him before or knew of him, they were bowing down. And there's stories like that. So that deliciousness that you're talking about, it
comes from Prabhupada.
Yes, comes from Prabhupada. Comes from Prabhupada. So,
but not automatically. We have to surrender to Prabhupada and yearn for that deliciousness. When we taste that deliciousness, then we can do better preaching than if we don't have that deliciousness.
We can just try, because that is good for us as much as we can try, to present, to put a book in someone's hand, to put some prasadam in someone's hand. That's good for us and it's good for them. But as far as how far we can, how much, where is that? Srila Prabhupada makes the point in this purport we're reading tonight and in other purports. He says, how have I done this? only because I've been empowered by Krishna to do this, you know.
Yes.
So we're little babies. At least I know for myself, I'm still a conditioned soul. I'm a kanista adhikari. I'm a baby trying to learn how to walk. I'm trying to cultivate a relationship with Srila Prabhupada, with Krishna's pure devotee.
Yeah, of course, we're in that position, ISHAN, Prabhu, Deva, Prabhu. We're in that position, but in the League of 10K, we are reaching out and saying we don't have the qualification, but we want to create a format whereby the qualification is transcendentally constructed by hearing Prabhupada's original chanting, hearing Prabhupada's original books, and creating ISKCON temples that are only Srila Prabhupada temples and do not have any other people or loosey-goosey kirtans or anything like that.
So each of us in his or her own way each of us will be encouraged from within our heart, just like Rupa Manjari Prabhu,
Yes.
she has made this program. This is a step in the direction that you're talking about. Each of us can do something according to our ability, according to our intelligence, according to our desire. How can I be part of this movement? And as much as we desire, Krishna will give us intelligence. We don't have to be great. We just have to try, and each in our own way, and we can't do more than that.
Well, we can do more than we've ever done before, that's for sure. Because if we do what we've done before, we'll die before we've got very much done.
Well, you know,
except for you, you're doing an incredible job. But myself and all the rest of us, I would say that we have to create a transformed status for our action so that when people come to Krishna consciousness, they get Prabhupada 100%. They get the sound vibration of Prabhupada 100%. Doesn't matter whether I realize it or don't realize it. It matters what they hear. And do they hear the sound of the pure devotee as he is? Do they hear Krishna coming through Prabhupada's sound vibration? That's the key. That's what we're looking for.
Srila Prabhupada gives some hints. I was reading today in Srila Prabhupada says, you know, most people, they're followers. They have no discrimination. Just look at the people in ISKCON, what they're following, for instance. But look at the politics today. Look what people are voting for. Srila Prabhupada said in the lecture I heard this morning, he said, you can't complain about the way things are in your country. You elected these fools. So he says, small fools, they follow big fools. So he says the real way that to answer, you know, what you're addressing is that if some leading personalities become Krishna consciousness, can you imagine if a president became Krishna conscious? How many millions of people?
Well, the question is, what would you call Krishna conscious? That he's wearing tilak and he reads from the Gita and then speaks nonsense all day?
You know what Krishna consciousness is.
Well, I can hardly imagine anyone becoming Krishna conscious unless they accept the League for 10K and see that that is the future of ISKCON for 500 years, 5,000 years, 10,000 years.
how this is going to happen,
5,000 years.
how can I say anything about how these things will unfold? I'm just saying that each of us should try in their own way to the
that's
best of their ability.
Thank you. That's a generous thought. By the way, could I ask you a question? You have in your picture frame a charming young lady. And I
Oh,
presume
that's
that you've
my
not had
wife.
a sex change. What?
Which picture frame? On the computer monitor?
Ask Ramachandra.
That's his wife, Nara Narayan Prabhu.
I had no idea.
Okay, let's continue I have a
That's
question now. So I don't want to
You
get
should have
off the topic.
introduced her. Can she say anything? Want to join the conversation?
She's not a devotee.
She's
Well,
not a devotee. She looks like a devotee.
She is a devotee because you're a
Oh,
devotee.
she places flowers on the altar every day and makes
So she-
kirtan with me when we put food on the altar for Krishna.
That's what a devotee is.
All right. But I
Okay,
mean,
Chandra, you had some key questions you wanted to ask.
Yes, Ishan Prabhu, you, I guess you joined Srila Prabhupada in 1968, and then you went to, you were in London at some time, right? Yeah. What year were you in London? 1970s? 69?
early. I don't remember the exact year, but the Berry Place temple was not open yet. There was no temple in London at that time.
Oh, really? So you were wandering around with the amazing sadhus who entranced all the Beatles, particularly George Harrison.
Well, I wasn't in touch with George Harrison so much. I was in the recording studio with George Harrison, and he had long hair, and I said, why don't you cut your hair like the rest of us? So the devotees immediately took me out of there, and I had no more connection with George. But they were Beatle fans. I was never a Beatle fan. So I was a Prabhupada fan. But they were very excited about the Beatles. But John Lennon invited us to live.
ISHAN? Sure. ISHAN, early devotee. He joined the
Early devotee, late devotee. Early means nothing. Early, how many early devotees have done the things that unspeakable things? It doesn't matter. It's not like they have this phrase, met the man, quote unquote, that I met the man. It doesn't mean that I know anything. So many have met the man and been only offensive.
You seem to know many things.
That's not the point. We're not here to talk about me so much. That I don't want to get caught in that trap.
Of the length of your hair.
No, so what was the idea? What were you inquiring?
Yes, yes, Ishan Prabhu. So when you were there in London, and you met, you said you met John Lennon. Who was it?
We lived with him, yeah, for a few months.
Yes, so John Lennon was letting you guys live at his place, but why wasn't he so favorable towards Krishna consciousness like George Harrison was?
Because Srila Prabhupada said to me, he is a nice boy, but that woman is useless. He was married to this Yoko Ono lady, and she was very demonic. These people were all on heroin. Their noses were running. these people were addicted to hard drugs. Lenin and the people who were working for him. And she said to me, you get high in your way, and we get high in our way. And I told Srila Prabhupada, and Srila Prabhupada said, he is a nice boy, but that woman is useless. So he was very much
Did you hear
under her
anything?
thumb. What's that?
Is there a way to turn it on?
And Narayan, please don't speak. It's coming through. He's speaking and you're cutting him off.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right. But you're asking me what, Ramchandra?
Yes,
Why he
I asked-
wasn't? He
yes.
wasn't because he was under the influence of that lady. Otherwise, he invited us to live there. But every time I was talking with him in his kitchen, he was playing his piano in the kitchen, Hare Krishna. And for me, Lenin. And she would come in and say, I have a terrible headache, please stop. She didn't like him to be anyone to be close to him. She wanted to own him, and she wanted to be between him and the devotees. And that's and he was submissive to her like that. And so like that's my understanding, that's my experience. And then Srila Prabhupada, we were living there, and I said, why you don't invite Srila Prabhupada to come? Because he was in Germany at the time, and they invited him, and they insulted him like that. And argue with him. Instead of hearing from him, they argue with him, especially that lady. And Srila Prabhupada said, we have no business here. Let us leave. And when we left the property, there was a huge storm and many trees were blown down.
Wow.
So Prabhu, they insulted Haribol? Ishan Prabhu?
I haven't heard.
I just did.
Haribol, Hare Krishna.
Yes. Yes, Mohit Prabhu, what do you have to say? Please ask.
So if my voice is starting to work, it's cutting out?
No, it's fine.
So Haribol, they insulted Srila Prabhupada indirectly, you want to say this, when he was invited? There's some problem at my place, I guess.
So yes, Mohit, that's what Ishan Prabhu said. Instead of listening to Srila Prabhupada, they argued with Srila Prabhupada. John Lennon, or well, specifically his wife, argued with Srila Prabhupada, and they left. And after that, a terrible storm came, and a lot of trees fell down.
You can hear these arguments yourself. They're recorded in the.
Oh.
They're recorded, and you can. I don't have it handy right now, but I have a CD collection, right, of lectures by Srila Prabhupada. There's a meeting that's recorded between Srila Prabhupada and John Lennon and Yoko Ono, and they're arguing. They're not receptive, and Srila Prabhupada is saying, try to hear, try to hear, try to hear, not hearing anything.
Okay.
I mean, insulting a pure devotee, it's like a big offense which they are doing. If you don't accept any devotee of a level of Prabhupada, you can just ignore it rather than insulting or saying other things. Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
Is this before the devotees lived at John Lennon's estate, or while they were living on it?
While we were living there, yeah.
Because as I understand, the devotees arranged a purification by which they killed out ghosts that have been haunting the place for hundreds of years. And when they kicked the ghosts out, all sorts of people felt great relief.
There was different men were working on the, and some of them were living on the estate. So there was one man, he was a mason. He was doing fireplace and things like that in the main house. And in the cottage he was living in was haunted. So Srila Prabhupada said, go there with mridanga and kartals and conch shell and have kirtan. And we did that, and it seemed to have nice result, you know. But these things, I don't know, they may be interesting, but they're not the essence of our philosophy, what we're discussing tonight.
So, so it seems that George Harrison, even though he was part of this group, was much more of a saintly person than John Lennon and his girlfriend or wife or whatever you want to call it, and
Yoko Ono.
Yoko Ono. So at that time, was George Harrison married?
I honestly don't know.
Okay, okay. Any other questions from the devotees here?
Or comments?
Or comments or realizations if they like to share?
Sure.
Is there any comment that your wife would like to make?
My wife has gone to bed.
Oh,
Haribo.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looks to me to be a very Krishna conscious, devoted person from the heart out.
The wife, Srila Prabhupada says, the wife is the power behind the husband. She can make him very strong or she can destroy him, because a man who has a wife, a householder, a grihasta, he has a lot of ego involved, a lot of false ego. And everything he's doing, he wants to be admired, acknowledged, and praised. And so the wife who takes that position can make the husband very strong to do his duties as a householder. And otherwise, she can destroy him. She can take away all his enthusiasm. So yeah, she's the better part of ISHAN Das. Yeah, she's the better.
Haribo.
I wouldn't
Yeah.
go so far as to say that, but I think you're treating her honoring her very nicely.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. My first wife in Krishna consciousness said that I was, what is that word? I forget the word. It means, I forget it. It's an English word. Misanthrope. A person who hates people.
Misanthropy.
Yeah, she said that's who I am. So I never was, I'm a very crippled soul, okay? I grew up in a certain way, and I have had a lot of emotional difficulties, and I couldn't live nicely with anyone. So gradually, I guess by Krishna's mercy, Srila Prabhupada's mercy, I'm becoming a little more balanced.
That's wonderful. When I last saw you with your first wife, she was quite tall, dark-haired, elegant, and looked like she was totally faithful to you.
Well, she was totally faithful, and then she took her child, and no, then she she became pregnant by another devotee. And then I delivered that child with my own hands.
Wow.
And then she took that child after a few years and ran away and found another husband. But you know, these things are not very important.
No, but is your
This
child
is not-
becoming Krishna conscious?
Not that child. She's the president of two banks today.
Well, that's not bad.
No, it's good. But she, you know, at any moment we can die in this world. So any material position is not very.
Well, hopefully she honors you the way a father should be honored.
Well, I never hear from her. In fact, I'm not, you know, aside from my wife, I don't have any relationships with people. I mean, family. It's my family is people like you, people who want to discuss Krishna consciousness. That's my family.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
it's like it's a vanaprastha role, right?
So are we done for the night for today, or are there some questions? I don't want to get too carried away with family.
Carried away. Okay, well, let's get into more katha, but we have 20 more minutes.
So Rupa, can you see if there's any comments or questions or realizations online? If you can share that. And then there was one devotee that shared that his comment that he will be listening to these programs, and he really appreciated ISHAN Prabhu and NARA NARAYAN Prabhu's association. So I think this will be more people will be listening, and then let's try to invite more people who are watching online. If they'd like to participate live, please kindly join the group in the description of the video. And next time we go live, next program will be a Ishtagoshti program, questions and answers and realizations. And then next Sunday will be another program like this, reading of Srimad Bhagavatam, and then discussing what Srila Prabhupada and sharing our realizations, and devotees can comment. Okay, Rupa, what you have, Prabhu?
Okay, so Saurav Sahu says, I saw someday before a real effect when someone tried to sing in Srila Prabhupada's melody. Everybody is jumping in ecstasy, but before that, the same person singing on an own made up ugly melody, but no one listening it. Everyone likes sleeping in the room. Then I understand the power of Prabhupada's voice.
Wow. Who would like to comment on that? Ishan?
No, I talked too much already. I have to apologize.
Carry
Especially
over.
for
Not at all.
I don't really want to talk about my personal life, but somehow
No. This is not about your personal life.
No. I mean, I have been speaking about my personal life, and it's only
That
because
is my
people.
fault, and I will not create that mistake again.
Yes, it's your fault.
I know it's my fault.
It's always your fault.
It
Narayan Prabhu.
doesn't.
It always turns out to be my fault.
I'm just apologizing. That's all. I shouldn't talk about myself. Hare Krishna.
No, I'm fine.
You're
fine. I'm okay, and you're okay.
So,
yeah.
so Rupa, anything else?
Okay, Saurav Sahu says, those deviated sects were with his Bhaktivinoda Thakur fought and destroy Isal, Bal, Kartabaj, Nira, Darbesh, Sai, just for information. Bhaktivinoda Thakur even once met with Ramakrishna and proved that he was a Sahajiya. Vivekananda made some scandalous statement. Playing football is better than reading Gita. You will be more closer to heaven. or statement like give water to brinjal tree is more beneficial than watering a tulsi plant because it will give you a brinjal to eat.
So these are demons.
Yeah. And like Vivekananda, I haven't seen what he did in other cities, but in San Francisco, he came during the Victorian age, meaning in the 1800s, that his followers built him house temples that were in the if you know the San Francisco Victorian building style, very elegant style, they built style like that for Vivekananda, equally in the style of the in that style, that they came to his ashrams, the Victorian style. They came to his ashrams, and apparently what happened is he would chant and meditate and whatnot like that, and mostly women were surrounding him. And if women were surrounding him, some men were surrounding him also, and they would be very enchanted by the idea that if they gave money to him, that good things would happen to them. So they gave them enough money to build gorgeous mansions in the Victorian style with, Vedic arches in them, on the edges. I am a designer and architect, so the so that the those elements were there, and yet he did not bring anything lasting of Krishna consciousness to America. And by what you said about him saying about the difference between different animals strikes me as being the root cause of it. How would Krishna give him any facility whatsoever if he is conducting the Maya of Vivekananda? And I was at Vivekananda's ashram in Calcutta. It was a huge palace made of marble, and the walls were Vedic on one side.
Narayan Prabhu, we have comments, so we don't want to go into
Okay, we won't go any further, but just
deviant
stuff. So he did a lot of stuff to try to convince people that it's all one, and Prabhupada did a lot to say that the one is actually just Krishna. So go ahead.
Rupa, please, comments?
Okay, this is a question for ISHAN. Christopher Briscoe says, the devotees made a kind of temple at Tittenhurst. What was it like? I.e., what deities were there?
It was a very simple altar. They had an indoor tennis court, and they gave us permission to make it into a temple room. We built a Vyasasan for Srila Prabhupada in there and put up some pictures and had a little an altar against one wall. And Srila Prabhupada at that time was just training Yamuna Devi in deity worship. And so it was a very simple little temple.
Okay.
Next.
Saurav Sahu says, can someone read this? Everyone needs to know this. I'm not sure what he's talking about.
Who is that person?
Saurav Sahu.
Oh, not Saurabh Swami.
No.
Okay, Saurabh Sahu. Okay, let's keep going.
That's it.
Well, what else did he say?
That's it for the comments. That's it for the comments. So I'd like to make a comment here. So Ishan Prabhu, so this is, I'd like to hear your understanding regarding this. You made a comment that after the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appearing as a devotee, there were many upper sampradayas. So now we see that now, fast forward some 500 something years, Srila Prabhupada appears, 1896. Then he comes to America in 1966. He starts the Krishna consciousness movement and initiates devotees. And then he kind of winds up his pastimes and goes into samadhi, or unmanifest pastimes. And then then they appointed the so-called these gurus. So do you consider these appointed gurus to be part of the ISKCON upper sampradaya, or is it one of those that was present during Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's disappearance or after his disappearance? I'd like to hear what you have to say.
Please rephrase the question, the last line or two.
So I'm asking that whatever is going on in Srila Prabhupada's movement with these so-called gurus, do you consider that to be also upper sampradaya, or is something in the middle?
Srila Prabhupada said, there's so much documentation. Don't change my books. Don't change my books. Don't change my books. Not one word. And they're changing, thousands of changes in the books. Srila Prabhupada said that these men should be, what the word, Ritvik, they should
Officiating
initiate.
acharyas, yes.
Yes, on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, and that Srila Prabhupada should be everyone's guru. And they're going against that. So it's inconceivable to me that anyone would dare to do anything like that. I can't understand. Srila Prabhupada is Krishna's personal associate, confidential servant in the spiritual world, sent to this world, and these people are going like this. The only thing I cannot imagine. I think that there's a lot of people who are being led by these people. They have no intelligence. Easy come, easy go. They'll be devotees for a while. Oh, yeah. I can't, but the whole thing is gone. As far as I'm concerned, I wouldn't want to set my foot in one of those temples. I wouldn't want to see any of their faces, because they're totally offending Srila Prabhupada completely, in the most terrible way, trying to take his position and sit on his Vyasa. So it's demonic, but I just don't understand how they could even think or imagine to do that. But it means they never understood who Srila Prabhupada is. See, they were initiated, but they never understood who Srila Prabhupada is. They never, so this is otherwise, how would they even think of such a thing? So this is the way it works. They did the same thing in the Gaudiya Math. This is the way it works. Somehow or other, it's beyond my comprehension, but what can I say?
Rupa Manjari Prabhu, you wanted to say something?
Oh, I was just going to say that maybe they did understand his position and they wanted to stop him and take the profit, adoration, and distinction for themselves.
But if they understood his position and they know, like Srila Prabhupada says, yeah, the pure devotee will forgive, but Krishna if he sees that his pure devotee is being offended, oh, he'll never forgive. He'll never forgive. I can't imagine that they won't be going to some terrible hell.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Bhavananda in hell.
Yeah, I keep on writing about the gurus and their disciples in the court of Yamaraj, wondering what the heck happened to them. Actually, more accurately, what the hell happened to them. But that's going to happen. I mean, they've completely poisoned people. Whether they deserve poisoning or not is not the issue. No one deserves to be poisoned. Everyone deserves to go back to Godhead. But if you start poisoning somebody and they go for what you are poisoning them with, then they will not, well, they'll go back to Godhead eventually because they're chanting the Hare Krishna mantra. But they will not go back as directly as if they surrendered to Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada says that those who are cheaters are attracted to a bigger cheater. In other words, there are people who were in ISKCON. I've talked with some of them. Some came to visit me. After reading the books and asking questions, they left. They left ISKCON because they understand that it's not appropriate what's going on there. In other words, if a person is sincere, they won't be misled. But a person who's not really sincere, who knows? I don't know how these people, these young people, I can't imagine what they're thinking if they're reading these books of Srila
The change books, you
Prabhupada.
mean? You mean the change books?
Even you read a change book, most of the changes are grammatical, but it's but if they change one dot, one period, or one apostrophe, Srila Prabhupada said, do not change anything. So it's not so much the message, although there may be some indication. I read it today in the Srimad Bhagavatam. I wish I could tell you which verse. Srila Prabhupada says, this is not my language, I'm paraphrasing. And I with so many frailties, I'm presenting this, and the verse in this Bhagavatam says, it will be accepted by people who are thoroughly honest. They will accept, and he says, Srila Prabhupada writes that my language it's not my language, but because it's such an important thing that I'm trying to present for the whole society, for the whole planet, those who, they'll overlook all this. And he actually says, because language is not important. He says, what's important is the idea, the technology of spiritual life that I'm presenting, and therefore honest people, real people, spiritual people, they will overlook all this. And what are they doing? Is they're changing it to make it more grammatical, this, that. It's a complete in defiance. Aside from direct orders again and again and again, don't change, don't change, don't
They're
change.
changing it to justify their illicitly obtained status.
I don't know. I can't
And
imagine.
on top of it, their vendetta against Hayagriva, who was the previous king of the book editors. Because you have to understand that changing books means after they're printed, but editing, when Prabhupada had editors edit their books, he did not consider their edits to be changes. They just saw their edits as polishing the edges of the language. And there were mistakes made during that time, real mistakes that could have been corrected easily. But But no, they didn't do it that way. Decided to turn it all into an exercise in English Lit Part 2.
Okay, we have 1 minute to go.
So one last question to Ishan Prabhu. Did you go with Srila Prabhupada to his talks at places such as Oxford Town Hall?
Yeah, Conway Hall. Yeah,
Yes.
yes, I did. Yes, sure.
Right.
Why?
Tell us about it.
Well, what we should be talking about is Srila Prabhupada's, the philosophy Srila Prabhupada's presenting to us. It's a little bit embarrassing. I I shouldn't be talking about myself at all. It's
Okay.
not important. It's not important. What am I?
Well,
It
it's
is
historic.
important. It is important. You're a disciple of Prabhupada, and you have been practicing Krishna consciousness sincerely for what, like 60 years or something? I mean, that's
Yes, and I'm still a Kanista Adhikari conditioned soul. So what
yeah,
kind
but
of practice is
maybe
that?
you're not. Maybe you're more than that.
Oh, no, it's true. I'm a conditioned soul. I haven't had the revelation that I'm not this body. I'm not liberated. And that's the first step for one who has a real spiritual master. So what kind of student am I? But I'm trying to understand. So we should focus on my feeling.
Well,
If it's
keep
worth
participating
anything.
on Sunday nights with us, and you'll never say that again.
All right, it's 10 o'clock, everybody.
No more comments?
Nope.
Okay. Hare Krishna, everyone.
Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you on Thursday.
And thank you, Rupa Manjari.
Alright.
You were excellent and compelling interviewer.
Yeah. Okay. Good night.
Good night.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare